back to Triple H Home Improvement. I'm replacing my countertops and I've already got them cut and dry fitted. Main purpose of this video is to show you how to install them. I cut them myself. I don't recommend that unless you are pretty good with a handsaw or a table saw, because the table saw isn't quite high enough to cut all the way through this if you've got it running through there flat. So I had to kind of tilt it this way and run it through there, and it wasn't easy. It's doable, but it's not easy. Now, if you buy these from like Home Depot or Lowe's, you probably ask them to cut them for you if you get your measurements. Pretty sure they'll do that. I'm not 100% sure, so don't quote me on that. But you can also buy them from like a top shop, someplace that specializes in countertops. You can pick your color and everything, and they'll come out and measure it for you. They'll cut it. You can bring them measurements, but they're not going to fix them for free if you screw up the measurements. If they measure it and it comes in and it's wrong, they have to fix it because it's their screw up, not yours. So keep that in mind. And this video is mainly about doing, well, my channel is mainly about doing stuff yourself and doing it on a budget and everything. And I like to do things myself. I don't make a whole lot of money, so plus 3 kids, so I have to save money every way I can. Well, the hardest part with this is these corners. You've got to connect the corners together, and I'll show you how to do that. It's not too hard to do, but you got to kind of know a thing or two about doing that. So I got everything dry fit. My kitchen's a mess. I had to pull the fridge out so I can get this in here, get it in and out. So what we're going to do is we're going to glue it together with some wood glue. I use some waterproof wood glue. Run some glue in these corners, or in this in the seam, and there's little brackets that you buy that go in there, and you got to tighten them up. And as you're tightening them, you got to make sure everything's flush and nice and neat. And then you let that glue dry. Once it dries, this thing's not coming apart very easily. And then you can put it all in one piece, screw it in from the bottom. I already removed the old tops. You just take your drawers out of your cabinets, get those out, and you can get up under there with your screw gun and take the screws out. You'll see them, just look for them in the corners. Get you a flashlight if you need to. These were square bit, and I think number 3 Phillips would fit also, but square bit fit pretty good. I tried doing it with a Phillips head at first, and it wasn't working right, so I had to get a flashlight up under there and figure out what I was doing wrong, and I needed a square bit. So make sure you have the right bits and everything. And then we also have to put the little end caps on here, and where we replaced this one already, we've got to put an end cap here, and it's different than this type, but we'll show you how to do all that. It's fairly simple, so let's get started. Okay, now I've got a good workspace using this table. This is what you're going to need for these ends, and this is what you're going to need as a backsplash, side splash. Yeah, it's called a side splash. So it goes up where it butts up against the wall. And anyway, I've got some of that. And we've got the brackets, look like this. I just took them off the old one. I'm just going to reuse them. There's nothing wrong with them. They're metal. But they go in here like that. But first we got to glue it. And it uses a 7/16 wrench for these ones. But I've got a rag, got the glue. Wet rag, get the glue off the other side, the top side. I've got it turned upside down on this table because it's just going to be a little easier to work with this way. And I don't have anything protecting this table because it's like kids drawing it and stuff. It doesn't look all that pretty anyway, so I'm not worried about getting glue on that table. Just don't let it dry to it. but you got to be patient with this part because it's not really fun. See, let's see if I can get it up here where I want it. There we go. Spread some glue. I'm just going to use my finger. You can use a little paintbrush, probably a little easier to do that way. I'm just going to spread it around, get it all over there. Use plenty of it. What squeezes out, you can wipe away, and get both sides, both pieces. I mean. There we go. Get it all on there. And same thing to this piece. Dripping all over the floor, but that's why I got a wet rag. It'll clean up as long as it's still wet. Just don't let it dry. All right, I'm gonna clean this mess up, put it together. All right, now we're gonna kind of just push it together a little bit, and we'll get these started. Just kind of take your time with these. And as you're tightening them, just kind of get them to where they're just a little snug. Don't tighten too crazy. Just kind of get them all where they're just a little snug. Where they're just snug enough. And we're going to check the top side, make sure everything's nice and flush. And let's see, what's the best way to do this? Hopefully it won't fall apart on me. Anyway, I don't know how well you can see this, but basically what we're doing is checking this seam, making sure that this is a little higher than that. So we're gonna have to kind of work our way down, make sure it's all lined up properly as we tighten them. So I'm gonna tighten this one, this first one right here, which is nice and it's already kind of flush. Just kind of take your time. Don't get in a hurry and break something. It's usually easier if you have an extra hand. That way somebody could be on the bottom side, tightening as you're pushing it flush from the top. So I'm going to kind of have it come off the edge a little bit to where I can hold this flush get under here and tighten it. And then we'll work our way to the center, I guess. You can start at one end, go to the other, or just kind of get both ends snug. So I'm holding it with my thumb to make sure it's nice and flush. And I'm tightening this bolt down here. And you can see it starting to squeeze the glue out a little bit right in here. And there's still a little gap here, so we're going to keep tightening. I got to get these middle ones, make sure it's nice and flush as you're going. So just kind of keep working on that. And once you get them all tightened, check the rest of them, because you'll tighten one of them up and then you'll come back to another one and it'll be kind of loose because it's squeezing it together. And sometimes these will kind of they'll kind of tilt as you're screwing them or turning them. And you want this metal piece to be up in there as far as possible, so sometimes you got to kind of tap them back up a little bit. And as you can see, it's starting to get a little better. I need to tighten these couple down some more. So like I said, just kind of keep working back and forth on those till you get them all tightened up until there's no more gap. You want it to look kind of like this up here, and then wipe the glue up. So now that we got these tightened up, see it's starting to squish the bottom of it a little bit. So I might have over tightened it a little bit, but that's fine. Once this glue dries, it's not coming apart. To prove that, here's the old one. I took the brackets out and it is stuck like Chuck. So it's not coming apart unless you really want it to. So one more thing I was going to show you. What you're going to want to do before that glue dries completely is let's find my rag. Here it is. Wipe up all this excess glue, and if you feel a spot that looks a little higher, you can take either a rubber mallet or a block of wood and a hammer. Just kind of give it a little tap where it needs it. But it's pretty good. I just need a little bit of tappy tap. I think that's about as good as it's going to get. It's not 100% perfect, but it's pretty good. There's not much of a lip there, just a tiny bit. It does drive me crazy though. There you go. Now that this is together, I'd recommend waiting until the glue dries before screwing it down. Or if you're brave like me, we're going to go ahead and screw this thing down anyway. So let's see, how long? Clamp for a minimum of 30 minutes. Do not stretch joints for 24 hours. Yeah, so, oh well. it's clamped with the little brackets that came with it, so I'm not worried about clamping it or anything. I think that's pretty darn good. So we're gonna set it in place. Over here, see how that goes. Yeah. Yeah, this is going to be tricky. Beautiful. I think that'll work. Screw it in from the bottom. We'll be good to go. Make sure my drawers are going to shut. Oh yeah, plenty of room. So now all I have to do, I'm going to reuse the old screws because I know they're the right length. We're just going to screw them up in these corners, right there, and over here, and over here. And of course, on the other side, I think there's 4 places in here too. These little diagonal pieces in the corners. So yeah, I'm out of breath. I'm sweating like crazy, but all right. So that's pretty much it for installing them, other than the caps. We'll have to do those. So I'll show you that coming up. Now to do these ends, there are 2 pieces. One goes on the back, one goes on the bottom. Check and make sure this fits. I had to trim a little bit off of this side, and I had to cut some off the side here, run it through the table saw so that it would go in here, because if not, it wouldn't have fit flush. So make sure it fits in there flush, make sure the countertop's where you want it, and then once you figure that out, then you can do this before you screw it down, obviously. But it comes with a little bag of these well, these little nails here, I'm not going to use those. I'm just going to glue it. As long as it's clamped on there for at least 30 minutes, it should be good to go. So I'm going to run glue on both sides of this, and of course this piece. Make sure you got it facing the right way, and then this piece, the decorative piece, you'll put it on there and kind of iron it on, or use a heat gun or something. But we're going to go ahead and glue and clamp these on, so it's not too hard. Just get that glue on all that good stuff. Of course, the bottom there. Set this to the side. Flip this over this way. Work on it a little easier. So we'll let that dry, and I'll show you how to put the iron-on piece on it. So when you're putting this in, they make it a little longer on this edge. So what you do is you kind of set it in there. Of course, maybe if that tile wasn't there, it would probably fit. But what I'm going to have to do is measure this gap, mainly right here. See this gap right here? I'm gonna measure out whatever that is how much I'm gonna cut off of this edge. That way it'll make the front fit nice and snug. So I'm gonna measure that and cut it, and then we'll glue it in. So we got it cut, and see, it fits real nice and snug on that end, on the left end. Then right here on this right end, it's kind of crummy looking, but I mean, it is what it is. So what we do, and of course the one thing I didn't have, and by the way, these are two-sided. That way you can use it on left or right, doesn't matter. But put some big globs of glue on here, and I don't have any glue right now, so I'll have to do that later. And then glue it, put it in place where you want it, and then get some caulk that matches this, or maybe even just some silicone to run down here, and then of course caulk all the edges real good, and then that'll be done. So that part's pretty easy. All right, now we're gonna use a heat gun, get this thing on there. You want to leave it a little higher, and then we'll come back once that dries, and we'll take a file to it and file it down to the right height. So there's going to be a little bit of a lip on here. You can do this before you install your countertop, before you screw it in, and you can use a router if you have one, but you can also just use a file. So that's what I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to heat this up really good with a heat gun. Turn the heat up. Heat this up a little bit too, why not? Boy, that's hot. I'm going to use this wood block again to kind of push it on there. And of course I didn't get it hot over here because I didn't want to burn my fingers. So we're just going to do that now. You can just heat it up on this side too. Try not to burn it. When you're using a heat gun like this, you can see how hot it is. Keep it moving, don't just point it in one spot or you will burn it. You want to keep it moving constantly. Once that surface gets heated up, it'll go through, loosen it and glue up. Once that glue gets loosened up, press it on with a wood block. We'll let that cool off. Once it's cool, check it to make sure it's stuck. Then we'll use the file to clean up this edge. Show you what I'm talking about. See that lip? Use a file and just chew it off until it's nice and snug or flush. Alright, so you basically want to kind of little at a time. Just take a little off at a time. And you want to kind of keep this at an angle, like about a 45-degree angle. Long strokes like this is the best. See, like that edge there. That's what you want it to look like. Not this. I went too far there. But nobody's really going to notice that anyway. But Just keep plugging at it. See how it turns out. So there it is. Now all I have to do is screw it down. Using that type of file that I had is probably not ideal, maybe for starters, but it'd be nice to have like a finer finished file to finish it up with. That way you don't kind of chew it up like I did in some places, but it's not bad. Of course, a Dremel tool, or actually the best thing to use is probably a router with the right bit, but I didn't feel like digging mine out. I might do that on the rest of them, but it can be done with a file. Probably not the exact one that I had, and you can kind of get it a little more flushed where you have just a little bit of filing to do too. But anyway, that's kind of one way to do it. And we finally got them installed. Now all I have to do is caulk there, of course there and there, and here and there. But the rest of these turned out pretty good. I did the same thing with the file, but not bad. Now all I have to do is finish painting the rest of this mess. But that's how you install countertops. So this is what it looks like all done. Caulked, caps put on, end cap and side splash. Now we gotta clean up the kitchen, but it's all caulked up. That caulk really makes everything final. But if you watch my previous video, I had to tear all that out. So then I painted the other cabinets to match, even though the doors, the style doesn't match at all, but this will do for now. Yeah, it's on a budget. But thanks for watching, guys. Well, that was fun. We got the countertops replaced. Everything's finished now, finally. Now all I have to do is paint the walls and the ceiling in this kitchen, replace some trim around the door. The door trim needs to be replaced, but yeah, we'll get there eventually. Thanks for watching.